going to be a lot worse. And it's not necessarily that these people are going to be voting for Trump, but do they stay home? And in an election this close, does that matter? So I think any sort of escalation of that battle or conflict throughout the region is not good news for Harris, because it brings it back into the news. I do just have to say, I find the Madison Square Garden conversation a bit silly. I mean, look, what Hillary Clinton said there is completely obnoxious. I'm as critical of Donald Trump as anybody, but people going to Madison Square Garden that night are not gathering for a Nazi gathering. It is a arena. Billy Joel and Fish and the New York Knicks play there. I don't think setting foot in Madison Square Garden makes anybody who goes there a Nazi. I think that's the kind of rhetoric that just tells people, like, it doesn't matter. They're going to say anything they want. Now all of a sudden, if you go into Madison Square Garden, you're a Nazi, and I can't tell you how much that upsets those people who are on the fence on Donald Trump, and they say if they're just out to get him, they're going to say anything. I don't know why it has to go to that level.
No, and I understand what you're saying, but with regard to the messaging that Donald Trump will deliver inside that arena and the accusations of fascism, not only from Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris now saying that she agrees he embodies so much of that. You have this from so many former Trump administrations, officials, notably this week, John Kelly, saying he absolutely embodies the definition of fascism. So don't you think that is something that will come out of Madison Square Garden? And there is reason to say that, look, there's some symbolism here.
No, I don't. I don't know how Madison Square Garden has anything to do with maybe any different than the rally he's having right now as it relates to Nazism. What Hillary Clinton said is the people who gathered that day were there to pledge their allegiance to Nazism, and that's what's going to happen again in Madison Square Garden. That is so over the top and disrespectful to a lot of people who I don't support Donald Trump. I think he's a bad guy. But the people who go there are not pledging their support to Nazism, which is what Hillary Clinton said.
Okay, again, but they're pledging their support to Donald Trump. And do you agree that he embodies?
Yes, but I don't think that you can just casually equate those two things. I don't think you can just casually throw out, because Donald Trump sets foot in Madison Square Garden, that means that it's the same as a Nazi rally 80 years ago.
Okay. All right. Duly noted. Thank you for that. Let me ask you, Amisha, Harris, who is set to speak at the Ellipse on Tuesday. Of course, that is the same park between the National Mall and the White House. It's where Donald Trump spoke on January 6, 2001, or rather from 2021, not 2001. It is billed as her closing argument. How important will this speech at the Ellipse be in providing the visual contrast of the violence that Trump incited?
I think it's going to be very important, and it's going to be integral for her. I don't think that you can create more of a contrast than what we've seen this election cycle and what we know Donald Trump to be. I want to go back to what was spoken a moment ago when Donald Trump decided that he was going to have a rally and have an event in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the same site that is a remembrance for the Tulsa race riots. He knew what he was doing then, just like he knows what he's doing in Madison Square Garden when he chooses to do this after not only leading with fascist language, after not only fashioning himself after fascists and authoritarians, after not only leading the most xenophobic campaign America has ever seen. I think that we have to take him seriously when he shows us who he is and when the people who work closest to him. We're talking about leader of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We're talking about his own chief of staff. We're talking about the people who are closest to him in his administration. Those who were his cabinet members are calling it out. I think that it would behoove us to take this man seriously and his actions. That's the biggest contrast.
Okay. I'm going to ask you both to stay with me, please, because it is yet another October surprise. But how much impact will what this person is now saying have on voters? The new revelations on that ahead. But first, early voting starts today in a state you wouldn't consider